Welcome guys, and thanks for stopping by. This is the new version of CorelDRAW 2020. This has just been out 2 days, and we've just upgraded our systems just to keep up to date. We've got a t-shirt printing business in Oxford. It's been about 30 years, and we do an online course for t-shirt printing, getting people started in the industry. So if you're interested in that, have a look at SE Workwear Academia. There's a link below. Okay, so let's get started. Let's have a look at some of the key features of CorelDRAW to start with, and then you will look at the enhanced features that have come out with this particular version. We've been running 2017, 2018, 2019 with some quite subtle changes. Each time they improve. Personally, my favourite is 2017. It's a really good, solid workspace. But this one really has got some, just looking at it, it's got some really good new features. Okay, so what I'm going to do is talk about the work area to start with, and what you're going to be presented with. So this is a fresh install. It's just gone straight in, and straight away you can see that you can create a new document. Whether you're new to CorelDRAW or not, to get started, you're going to see your document here, and create a new document here, and also be able to open existing documents here, or via the menu system up on the top there where you can open. Okay, so we're going to press new document there, and you can give the document a title like test page, and then what we're going to do is set up some of the features. So in this there you can have some of the presets, or CorelDRAW default presets. So if you're not an experienced user, just leave it set to default. The number of pages that you want in this document, I'll add 2 in there so you can see, and whether your primary color palette is going to be RGB or CMYK. For now, just leave it. If you're not sure, just leave it at CMYK. So you can then add in your page size, or you can customize and add your own customized workspace, whether you wanted like a 400mm document square or something like that. Or if you wanted to stick with the A4 page, you can change the orientation of the page, whether it's portrait or landscape. So let's leave it in standard portrait mode, and also you can adjust your resolution settings here. So we're going to press OK, create a new document, and within a few seconds you will be up and running. So this here is now the document you're going to be working in, and over to the left hand side here you're going to see your toolbox, and the toolbox is broken down into sections, and each one of these tools here will have a pop out with some, well not all of them, but most of them will have a pop out with additional tools that come underneath that, such as this one here, which is a drawing tool. You've got Bezier, you've got pen tool. So you see each one of these, and also things like the shape tool will have additional features underneath, or different. So if it's a shape tool, it's got the star, it's got the spiral. So to actually get to the tools, you can either hover over, or you can click. Just on the corner there you can see there's like a small arrow. So if you just click onto that, it will pop up this menu. So looking at the top here, we now have the menu bar, and it's also, you've got the standard tools across here and the properties. So this is ideal for actually changing different features. So at the moment, because nothing is selected, you can see that you can actually change your document size. Again, where we changed that document originally, we wanted to change it to 400 by 400. You could put that in there. You can change your orientation and so on. So moving across to the right over this side, you can see we've now got the properties panels, and these are quite handy for like pop outs. So as you're drawing something or you're changing objects, you can then jump over to this side and use this properties panel. You will also get the features along the top. So if you were adding text in here, and you went to the properties panel, you'd see all the tools for the text, but also you could change it at the top here. So if I clicked on the text tool and brought that across to the main workspace, clicked down and typed in something like test like this, just to give you a little bit of an idea. Nicely spelt. Like that up. Like so. Let's get rid of that, that's ridiculous. So just double click on that, you can change that. You can see straight away up the top there, we've now got Arial, we've got the font size, we can flip it upside down, whatever, you've got different options. But also over on this properties panel, you can see you've also got the options over here as well. And what I do like about this, it just keeps your workspace nice and clean. You don't really want to be changing stuff up here. This is just a nice addition to your workflow. So if you get stuck at any point, you've got hints and tips, which is fantastic. So whatever tool you're on, it will give you some sort of AI and say, oh yeah, okay, using the text tool, here we go, here's some hints for you, which is invaluable. You've also got your objects here as well. So when you click on that, it will give you a list of all the layers. So if you're used to any form of sort of drawing tools like Adobe, or if you're a CorelDRAW user, previously in the old versions of CorelDRAW they didn't have layers, but now they have, so you can turn items on and off and move them around. Okay, so the top area here. So if at any point, sometimes from now and again, you can see that these dockers and menus can actually get moved around. And from time to time, what can happen is you might just click on something and lose one of the panels, tools, bars, palettes, any of that stuff. So that's quite straightforward. All you need to do is to go up to Windows, come down to Dockers and toolbars and stuff, and you can just add them in by clicking on, like say you wanted a layout tool, you can add that in, and that will then bring that into view. And what you can do with this now to put it back into where you want, you can go up and you can drop it any of the toolbars, sides, bottom, sides, or along the top there, and you can quickly put that back into place. So I'm going to get rid of that because I don't actually want that one on there. So I'm going to go back to Docker toolbars and go down to layout and remove that. So that's gone. So I'm back to normal. So when you're inside CorelDRAW, there's 3 different types of things that you can have inside it. So 1, you can have text. 2, you can have a vector object, like so, which could be a square. And if you're not sure what a vector is, it's basically a mathematical equation of points and lines, which is scalable to any size, and it doesn't degrade or pixelate like a vector. Sorry, like a bitmap. So if we look for, we'll look to import a bitmap. We can easily do this by going to File, Import, select a bitmap and place that down. So that gives you the 3 types. So we've got the vector, we've got the bitmap, and we've got the text. Next we look at the drawing tools. So on the left hand side toolbar, if you click on to freehand tool, you can click and draw any shapes you like, and as you release, it will smooth out the drawing line, giving you points of nodes all the way around, which you can click and adjust. To close the line, you can just join the 2 together with an additional line. So if you go back onto the actual object and you've closed it, you can fill it. If it's unclosed, if it's just a straight line or a shape and it doesn't continue all the way around and close back on itself, you won't be able to fill that. So if I delete those out. Next you've got, go down, the Bezier and the B-spline tool. Both of these work by using handles. So you can click and drag, and as you drag out in a different direction, you can quite easily create some nice smooth shapes. This is one of the tools that we use quite a lot in the redrawing of logos in the t-shirt printing industry. Next we've got the polygon tool. Polygon again allows you to draw all the way around and then if you want to close that tool, you can go up and click and close the image. As long as you go back to the final to your start point, it will actually give you this little arrow tool. If I do that again, come back round, as I get closer, you can see that the pointer then changed to a small arrow. If I zoom in there, and when I click that, it closes the group. You've got a 3-point curve, which is ideal for making arcs and shapes. So as I click, I can then stretch out. So if I wanted to make a half circle, I could click at that point and then I could come back to my shape tool, and if I want, I can actually manipulate these points and these handles, which is what actually gives you the ability to manipulate the line work. For the purposes of this video though, we won't be covering too much of the actual drawing tools. This is just sort of an overview of CorelDRAW. So then we have the brush tool, which this one, the artistic media tool, allows you to physically draw whatever you like really on screen by the use of a brush. So here you can see that we've just dropped a line in, and you can change the brush type. You can change whether it's spray work or it's actually a brush itself, and whether that line is, let me just drop one of those in, let's put this over to spray as well, and then that will give you the desired feature. And in these brush strokes, of course, you can change all the different types of colours and stuff as well that you want. You can actually bring your own brushes into this as well. Underneath here, you've got the drawing tools. So things like your square, for making a square. So you can actually click and drag away from one corner. You can hold the shift key and you can hold the shift and control key, and that will grow the square or a circle or any other polygon from the center point, which is always quite handy. If you wanted to rotate that, you could basically go up to the top here by clicking on your pick tool, and then go up to the top to the angle rotation. I could put in 45 degrees and that will flip that 45 degrees. Now if you wanted to maybe add in a star, you could come down to the star tool, which is just underneath the polygon, and as you can see, once I actually select that that star, then that becomes the default object that you're going to be using. So I've just clicked down, I can resize the star by grabbing one of the corners. I can, if I want to, I can actually just manipulate the star by sort of taking the skew this way, so horizontally. I can stretch it. What I can also do is I can increase the amount of points that this has got. If I want to go back and make this square, at the moment you can see here there's a padlock on the top. This is on the transformation panel, and what I can do to make this back square, I can put that 30 millimeters, and then I can lock that back in. So the aspect ratio, the height to the width ratio, is always going to be the same. So if in this case, if I now change that to 40, you'll see that the height also changes to 40. Now if I wanted to reduce the depth of this star, what I would do is go to the shape tool, grab that, and I'd pull that right back out, and that gives me a nice little shape there, you see. Again, you know, there's no point, but you could rotate it slightly if you wanted to. You can duplicate that by pressing Control D, and that will give you an additional object of exactly the same. Now if I was to offset this to this point and I press Control D again, the AI in this software actually will give me additional objects to the same distance, equal distance that I initially duplicated. So duplicating is just basically like copy and paste, but it's just giving you just a quick feature, and it's something that we use all the time, very, very fast. Now coming down to the next tool is your text tool. If I click on the text tool, there's two ways of using this. Now when you're doing t-shirt printing, we don't use the constraint box, and a constraint box is like this, so you click and drag and let go, and that's really where you can add the text in as much as you want there. Now that's brilliant for doing document work, if you're generating flyers, etc, etc. But if you are producing a piece of artwork like a t-shirt design, then you're going to want to use the text tool in this manner. So that's where you click on the text tool and you click down, and that gives you a cursor on the screen. Now at this point, this is where you can type in something like SE Workwear Academia. Okay, so that's the name of our course, and then all of this text now is very similar to it being like in a Word document, but you can see here that you can actually move it, size it, so you don't actually have to change the font points up here. You can just make this scalable to whatever you want. Now let's just say we wanted to add a bit of bold in there, we wanted to make that italic, underline, whatever you want. It's all got the same sort of principles that you do have in any normal text type document, but you can do the alignment underneath where you centralize, right, left justification, or full force, like so. Now if you wanted to change the font, what you could do at this point is you just go up and you click on your drop down menu on the font side here, or you can go over to the properties menu, which is exactly the same as we talked about earlier, and we will hover over that, and you can see that's popped out. What we'll do now, we click on the drop down menu and let's just change it to that font. There you go. Now if I wanted to change some of the different color in here, or if I wanted to split the font up, all you need to do is actually double click on the text area and say I want to change workwear to red, and I'd go over to the palette on the right hand side and click red, and that's now going to color the workwear side in red, which is cool. Now, if I wanted to, let's say, change the base font on this one where it says Academia, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to change that to another font underneath. Now, if you wanted to work and manipulate the fonts a little bit more, then what we do is we would actually break these two objects apart. So because it's on two lines at the moment, if I was to break that apart by using Control K, like so, it has now given me two components. So I've got the top line and the bottom line. Now, if I was to click on that, and because there's a space between the two, if I clicked Control K again, it would split these two objects, which I'll do. Highlight that, Control K, and now I can manipulate this side of it as well. And finally, a little quick tool on here, which is very nice, is the shape tool, which we can then click and we can make some little adjustments there by like adjusting the spacing. We can also drill straight in and we can manipulate one of these letters if I wanted to just move it into a different position, like so. Now, there's a lot of new features in CorelDRAW relating to text and typeface, and we'll go over those just at the end of this video, because for now that's going to be a little bit complicated, but it just gives you so much manipulation. It's going to be very, very exciting to show you. Now let's get rid of that. Let's talk about the Snap to tools. So as you're working through different functions, actually let's bring that back. So if I wanted to bring that back, and press Control Z as a shortcut key, but let's get rid of the Academia bit at the bottom because it's looking a bit messy now I've played around with it. So at the top here you've got Snap to, and this is a absolutely incredible feature, something that's going to be invaluable for you when you're designing and when you're laying out different pieces of artwork. There's rulers that you can show on and off. So if you see, I can click those on and off there. That gives you the ruler on the top and running straight down the edge now. Now if I click on that, I can bring myself a ruler down, and these are not exported when you export a document such as a PDF or etc. These are purely drawing tools that you're using right now. Again, you can switch on a grid, which is very handy. So if you've got some real alignment to do, and like with all documentation and stuff as well, it's always important that you keep all your text aligned to different locations, whether it's to left, right, and so on, and that just really helps with making it nice to the eye. Now also on here we've got some very nice features, which is Snap to. Now if I was to bring in a circle, and I don't want it sort of all out of shape like that, so don't forget, remember, I can press my either my Control key to make the circle symmetrical from the left hand side, which was the first point that I clicked, and as I pull it out, it's going to keep my my circle with the aspect ratio it needs to be, not rather than something like that. But you might want that sort of eclipse. So, but if I've got this circle and I'm using a drawing tool, let's just go point to point. You can see now if I've got Snap to object on, you can see that the node point, if I zoom in at that, follows the edge of the ellipse or the circle. So what I can do is I can click on that and I can pull away, and that can then click to another object. Okay, so in this case it's not selecting to any of the text. But what we can do, if I can Control Z and get rid of that again, is I can then bring in another object. So you can just see, I'll put this here, press and Control, using my point tool, I'm going to take that and I'm going to take that to the edge, like so. So that's giving me a little bit of guidance there where it needs to click to. Now what you've got here is you've got document grid, so I can snap to document grid, which is handy. So if I was just drawing, let's get onto that one again. So you can see that I can click from here to here. I can then continue this line by, you see that we've got the little arrow again, what I talked about. I'm going to click on that, take that down to there. Perfect, okay. And I'm going to click again, I'm going to take that across. And finally, I want to close this by clicking up and finding the additional node close point again. And that's there, it shows you that you can then colour that object as you like. So let's talk about line styles. As you can see here, we've got a line without a fill. So this object is actually a line without a fill. So a few things we can do with this now. We can change the actual line or the stroke color, depending on what software you use. Some call it outline, some call it stroke, and you'll get used to that as you go through this sort of industry of design work and t-shirt printing and so on. So what we're going to do, I'm going to click over on the properties panel over here, and you can see straight away that if I click on the little arrow on the right hand side of that black block, which is the color of the stroke or the outline, then it will bring me up with different options for changing the color. So here I can say, right, I want it to be a green color, and I will move the pointer across to the green, and now you can see that it's actually made this outline on here in the green, which is great. If I wanted to use the eyedropper tool, which is handy if you had a bitmap in here and you wanted to match up a color. In fact, I think I have a bitmap still over here. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to just copy that, Control C. I'm going to jump straight back to my test page and go Control V. Now, to find that, I'm just going to pull that down here. And let's just say I wanted to match this aqua color blue from the sea. I wanted to actually use that color for that. So what I would do is I go back over to my properties panel, to the outline color, pick up the dropper tool, come over, select that, and that's now going to have matched that to that. Obviously with bitmap, you've got lots of different gradients all the way through there, and the color is changing it all the time, so it's going to be a little bit tricky to get the exact color that you want. But if you're stylizing your design, then that's ideal. Now, you know, you'd be able to use that. Now you can see, because I brought this particular image in after I'd drawn this vector, you can see that half of my circle is hidden behind. Now let's just say I wanted to bring that forward and I wanted to fill this circle with a solid color. What I would do at that point is I would go across to my objects panel and open that up. And you can see there that I've got the bitmap, which is at the top, but I actually want that to come down here. So all I do in that case is I bring it down, and I'm going to just put it actually at the bottom there. And you can see what's happened here now is my Eclipse Circle tool is now positioned over the top of the bitmap. Now what I'm going to do in this point is I want to actually fill this. So jumping back across to my properties panel over here on the left hand side, to the top of the properties panel you can see fill. Now I'm going to click on the fill, and I'm going to come down to the color again, which was like the outline tool where we had the black, and at the moment that's just defaulted to black, and it says this object has no color, but I want to change that to green. And see, now you can see that it's actually got that green color over the top, and I can position this wherever I want. Now let's just say I wanted to add in a shade. So this is a fountain fill, and you can see there that it's actually got the green to white. Now let's just say I wanted to go from this blue to this jade color. What I would do in that point is I would click over this color, which is the darker portion of the green on this side. I'm going to come over to the color eyedropper there, and I'm going to say, right, okay, I want to go from this blue, and I don't want to go from white. You see the white is here. I'm going to double click on that point there, which is then going to bring me up with this secondary color box over here, and I'm going to say I want to get that over to a jade like so. And actually I'm not happy with that dark outline, so I'm going to come back up to the outline tool at the top here, and you can either remove the tool, the color by clicking there, or you can, if you wanted to, add in a white edge, whatever you like. Okay, so that's using a couple of the fill tools. Let's have a little look. This one here is where you can add in different types of effects, and you can see there this has given me some preset vector patterns, and also here you can add in some bitmap patterns as well, which is great for if you're both of these, if you're like wanted to cut this guy out of the surfer and lay in a new background behind, or if you wanted to fill a pattern such as this. And again, down the bottom here you've got sort of different things, like you've got rotation of the actual object. I mean, you were only seeing a small portion of that, but if I resize this, you're probably going to see a lot more of this vector pattern over here. Okay, so let's get rid of some of these objects on here. And so basically by using my pick tool, I'll just click on those and get rid of them. What I want to talk to you now about is the trace feature. Okay, with the trace feature, this has been widely enhanced with CorelDRAW 2020, and the trace feature is an absolutely invaluable tool for any designer. It can save you so much time when you've got to redraw logos or you're putting something together for a customer. Let's jump over to this second tab document over here, and I've got some imagery over here for tribal designs. Now you can see the top ones, you could probably get a really good trace off these, and anyone that's not familiar with what a trace is basically this is a bitmap image I've imported from the internet, and what I want to do is convert this into a vector-based format where I can use this through one of my cutting machines, or I can manipulate this to give me a starting point for a new design. So what I want to do, I don't want all of these images on here, so I'm going to use my crop tool on the left hand side, jump over there, and I'm going to pull one of these out. And if I highlight a box around it and double click on that, that's going to crop that image. Now looking at the text tool, sorry, at the trace tool, so straight away we can come up and we can do a quick trace. And this is going to trace lovely. You can see straight away that that actually works really, really well. But some of the features that have really enhanced the trace tool in 2020 is this. So if I just jump back and go back to undo that. Now look, if you were going to look at tracing an object like this, there's quite a lot of detail in here. And as you can see, it's really heavily pixelated. Now that's going to give you quite a few issues. When you run a trace through that, it's not going to work very well. So let's again make a box around that, double click on that, and we're going to zoom in here. Okay, now if I was to do a quick trace on that, it's going to go off and do a little bit of processing, and to be fair, that's done a pretty good job. I would say that even the base engine on this 2020 has really come on a lot. I'm actually really impressed with that. I know we've lost a little bit of detailing through here, but in all seriousness, that is excellent. I can see we've got a few points. This area is missing on this section, but nothing that you can't quite easily put that back together, put that back in yourself. So let's just delete that, and let's just try some of the enhanced features. Okay, so you wouldn't go to the normal quick trace tool, but what you do is come down to the low quality image trace tool. Now this computer is not particularly fast for this sort of thing. It's not got a heavy graphics card, and it's going to do some grunting to do this sort of work. But what you have got initially, this is just your standard tab panel that you get with the trace tool, but where you can actually go in here and you can make tweaks to the detailing and so on. But what you are really looking at is this new set of tabs over here where you've got adjustments. So you can remove the JPEG artifacts that basically means some of the outline detail on here that's going to try and trace, and that's going to cause, on a normal trace, lots of additional block work around here, which is the pixelation, and that's really going to cause you a lot of problems. So what you need to do is, if you click on that, get rid of it. I'm going to stay with a photorealistic image, and I'm going to come across to the colors, and predominantly this is a black and white image, so let's go black and white. Ideally you could take that to 2 colors. It's going to start estimating, and we're going to click on there. I'll probably have to pause this video for a second. Okay, so let's just finish that, and you can see that it's actually picked up a little bit more of the detail, some of the stuff we lost on the previous version. There's lots and lots of features in there for tweaking that. It is going to be pretty heavy on the processor and GPU, but it is definitely I can see already that it's just a much better trace tool, and by going in and doing small amounts of adjustment work, you're not going to be far off from that original document there. So let's talk about the shape tool. Let's get rid of this object. Let's open a new tab over here. I only want one page, and the pages are detailed by the tabs on the bottom here, so you can have multiple pages all the way through, which is ideal when you're putting together some documentation and you export that as a PDF. It gives you multiple pages. Okay, so let's just talk about importing a bitmap using the vector sort of tool. So if I was to go File, Import, and find myself a bitmap in my folder, let's go with this particular one, the surf design, and I'm just going to click on there and drop a box. Now there's 2 ways you can do it. You can do it that way, or you could just actually click down. But by doing that and dragging a box it's actually going to give you a vector constraint around the outside. So if I was to go over the properties panel, I could actually see, let's put in see if let's put that on there now. Yeah, you can see that there. It's just saying I've actually highlighted a green. So it's got a green outline on it. It might not be completely evident, but that's on there. And that's handy for when you're doing a printing and you might have a print cut system. It will print that and it will use a spot color as a cut line. It will go off and it will cut that out afterwards. Okay, so other things you can do with that is use the shape tool, and you can come across and you can click on the point and you could actually crop however this image looks, which is quite cool. So if you had you needed to shape that round something like an object, so let's just say you had a circle on the page and you wanted this image to follow around the outside, not that you probably would, but just to give you a bit of an idea, you could double click on there, double click on there, double click on there to add some points in, and then you could pull that around if you wanted to. Just very, very crudely, but it just gives you a bit of an idea of another feature you can use. So now again with this, what you can do, let's just undo that, Control Z, 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 take that back to the original image, pretty much. Okay, so what you can do with this, you can apply some effects. Now again, this is some really new enhanced features that 2020 has brought in, and you're going to be, it's quite exciting actually. So first off, clicking on the effects, we can add an effect, and we can come down and we can put in some different sort of creativity to change the image into something a little bit different. So although that we did have originally these sort of features, these are now super enhanced. Again, don't forget that this sort of work can be quite heavy on the processor power. So let's have a look at changing this over to a what we got here, smoke. This is like a glass sort of thing. That's not going to really work out so well, I don't think, on that one. Let's go for a different one. Let's have a look at creative. Let's go for glass. Yeah, that's cool. Look at that. Sort of things you can do. Okay, so then we can add another one in. We can go over to creative and maybe go. Where was that pen and pastels I saw earlier? That was quite cool actually. Distort. And there's so many new things on here. Let's have a look at glass block. That's quite cool. That's that one we just did, wasn't it? No, I know which one it was. It was on here actually under art strokes. I think it was impressionist actually. Let's try that. Yeah, this is the one. So we add in impressionist. Obviously you can tweak around and you think, oh, that's needs a little bit of work on it. But what we can do here is we can then remove some of the actual FX. So if I can turn like some of the bits on and off. So if I go to, we'll just take that back off again. So there's lots and lots of different things you can do in here. The new FX AI is very good. Let me just see what else we've got here. So if we just add another effect in, let's go to creativity. Let's just add, I don't know, anything crystallized will do. Doesn't really matter. Let's change the size of the points right down to make them nice and small. Okay, and what you get here on the FX panel is you get lots and lots of different effects, and you can see that the eye next to it, you can hide that and you can layer up the effects if you want. So you could add a couple together. I know that doesn't look amazing, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what you can and can't do, and you can keep building up. So that one there is quite nice. That is the crystallized one. The impressionist, yeah, that's not really good, but gives you a bit of an idea. And then obviously you've got a little edit button just by the side. Also we can, let's have a quick look at this. If we've got a bitmap image available, what we can do then is you can go in and you can edit the bitmap, and that will open up the new CorelDRAW 2020 Corel photo paint, and in there you can make multiple adjustments like masking, cutting images out, fixing things with a heel brush, etc. But we won't go into that in too much detail at the moment, just because that's a whole other course on its own. But it just shows you that this whole Corel suite all comes together. There's lots and lots of new components which you can see from up here as well, and we'll cover all of those in additional videos. But here again, there's certain things you can do with this. So very quickly you can apply a transparency over the top, where if you wanted to actually overlay this over another object, or if you wanted to have that as a nice subtle background and so on, and you can adjust the transparency level to almost 0, as you can see. There's also sort of other things you can do where you can enhance the colours and so forth. If you was to go up to transform or effects across the top here, and again, these are all features that are available from over this side as well on the properties panel. Okay, so let's close that one down and let's continue. Right, so let's just delete that one out and carry on. Just quickly before we go away from this, if you do have any bitmap images on here that you wanted to skew or scale, basically when you click once on the bitmap image, you'll see that you get these points all around the outside, and much like we talked about with the vector tool, you can actually manipulate and stretch and change the aspect ratio is how you want. But what you also get on here as well, if you hover over this side, you'll see that you can actually just zoom in a bit, you get a skew tool change. So that's by clicking on the image once, clicking on it twice, it changes from rotation and to skew, from sizing to skew and rotation. So now when I click this, you can see we can actually skew the whole photograph. Now if I was to put that back by doing Control Z, at this point now I can spin the image how I want by holding onto one of the handles and moving that around the outside. Now as a standard, what happens is it always rotates from the center point of the image, but what if I moved the point of rotation to wherever I want? Let's just say I want it in the corner, and there you can see it locks to that point. You can see that now it always moves from that edge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the new features in CorelDRAW. So I'm going to open up another document, and this now we're going to talk about variable fonts, and this is a truly amazing new feature. So first off, you need to have variable font installed, and there is plenty of websites. If you go out there and search around for free variable fonts and download and install that, you can then start having a play around with this. So this is where things get really fun. Okay, with the new feature with CorelDRAW is the variable font system, and what you'd need to do is have variable fonts installed to actually use that. And what I've done is I've gone over to variable fonts. So on vFonts here, this particular one, Amstel-Var is, you can see all the different features it will actually give you as a variable font. Yeah, so Amstel-Var is by David Burlow, and okay, what you do is just click on the open source link, it will take you over to a download, and you can download and install that font. So once you've got that installed, let's put some text in here. So let's go over to the text tool, click down somewhere and type in SE Workwear Academia. Okay, and I'm going to put another bit of text over here, sort of like design. And there's a reason for that I want to show you, because this particular set of fonts is going to show you some quite cool skills, quite cool manipulation tools, which is part of the feature. So what we're going to do, you can use the control panel up here, or you can use the properties panel across over this side here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this font apart into 2 lines. So that's going Control K, and we've broken that apart. So the first line, I'm going to come across to the font tool over here, and I'm going to click on the drop down box to the right hand side, and I want to select and search for variable fonts. So you've got a filter across the side here, and I can click on variable fonts. It will only show the variable fonts that I've got installed. So first off, I'm going to try this one, which is Grandster. I'm going to click on that, and this is going to give me a few features. Okay, so when we come back with this highlighted, so you click on it once, come back over to the right hand side to the properties tool there, and you can see here this significates that this is actually a variable font, and it does have some variable features. So if I click on that, one, it allows me to slant, and see as I can change that, which is a little bit like italic, obviously like an italic button that you would click up here normally on your control panel, but this one gives you obviously complete control and flexibility over the movement of that font and its slant. Also, which is a fantastic feature, is weight. Now weight is something that you will find if you are actually printing t-shirts or doing that sort of work, that sometimes you might need to thicken or thin text depending on the customer's requirements, because if you're going to print to garments, it can cause you lots and lots of issues. So just being able to thicken that, normally what we'd have to do is run a contour from a tool over here on the right hand side and run a contour around that, or find a font that's slightly heavier. So that's a real nice little feature there. Just being able to, with this particular font, you've got two functions. One is weight and one is slant. Now let's look at another one, which is, we're going to highlight the academia. I'm going to go back over again. I'm going to go to my drop down menu. I'm going to filter out by variables, and we're going to look at this one here. Let's click on that. So Bandschrift or something. So we'll click on that one and see what features that gives us. Again, so this one has got width and weight. So weight, of course, is making the text thicker, as you can see there. And then we've got width. Now width is quite good because that is very similar, if I was to click on there, to actually using your shape tool, where you can manipulate your text to give you different sort of widths as well. But this one is just just another quick way of manipulating. Now what we're going to look at here, this particular word, design, okay? So with this one we're going to use the font, let's just go over to this, which we talked about, Amstelvár, okay? So we're going to click on Amstelvár. Now the reason why we chose this font is because it has multiple options. So now when we go over and click on variable font, you've got the gradient or the weight, so you can see that we can increase or decrease as required. Then we've got the yes, that makes that narrow or extended. Then you've got YTAS, and you could probably just see, if you concentrate on the top of the dot there. So if you had a letter with like an L or an H or something, you could actually move the position. You see where that's bringing that down. If I was to double click on that actually and just put, say, a lowercase h in there, you can see that the top of that is actually quite compact at the moment. So if I go back and if I come back over to the drop down menu on the variable fonts here, let's just click on that again, and we're going to just extend that this time, and you're going to see that this is going to start to come up like so. So that's that one. Okay, let's just reset that again, just put that back. Okay, let's go back and open these documents up. I think I overdid it with that one. I was getting a bit carried away. So this one, you can see the YTDE is the lower area of the font. So that sort of will extend the base of the G there. Let's just have a little look back up here. Let me just reset so you can see again exactly what it's doing. Let's go to that one. Yeah, okay. Open this box back up. So let's go to YTDE. You can see this point here is moving up, which is cool. And you can extend that right down as well. It's giving you just like full control over the font. Just doing all sorts of different sort of manipulations. Just compressing the actual font height itself. And this one is the higher extremities of the font as well. So this is pulling the D up there. You see what I mean? You can just do so much with it. Crazy. Bit more weight, bit of gradient. So it gives you total control really over the actual the font. So without going in and having to manipulate fonts as a curve. Because what we find quite a lot is with reproducing people's logos and stuff, there will be very subtle changes to quite a basic font, and just having that ability to obviously manipulate a standard font. Of course, you are limited to what variable fonts are out there at the moment. And as you can see, these two particular fonts that we used only had a low amount of actual variations that you could actually change, and both of them only had like 2 each, whereas this one has like got a full complement of all sorts of things to change as a variable font. But that's a great new feature, having something else in there that can help you become slightly different as a designer and just offer another feature. Just more tools, really, just making your life a lot easier. Okay, so continuing just with the final tools that are available on CorelDRAW, I'm just going to go open one more tab down here, and these are some of the like design sort of featured tools on here. So we've got shadow, contour, blend tool, distort tool. That's quite actually a nice little feature. Let's put in a box, whack a box on over here. Let's go along to the distort tool, and we should be able to manipulate that tool. Just gives you sort of a degree of variation there, and there's lots and lots of ways that you can actually manipulate that tool across the top here. I won't go into too much detail, otherwise it's just going to blow you away with the amount of tools and things on here. Again, we can add a box in, and I can contour that by clicking and dragging out, and we can step the amount of contours that we actually have as well, and we can fill contours. So if I was to actually drop a colour in there, it would actually provide us with some sort of shading and stuff, or steps of colour through the amount of contour steps that we do actually have. We've also got an extrude tool on here as well, so I can drop in a circle, I can come down to an extrude, and I can click and drag, and this will basically make this a 3D object, and you'll see that as soon as I drop in some colour. You can see now that we've got that, and you can change the colour of the actual extrusion as well by clicking up here and changing the colours of the fills and stuff. So there's just lots and lots of different features. And this is a really enhanced version, obviously being 2020. There's so much more stuff going on with it. And so finally, I don't want to carry on too much, because what we'll do is we'll start breaking all these sort of different tools and stuff down in our actual course. And if you want to do that, then click on the link below and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, all of those, just to see a little bit about what we're doing. There's a really good solid foundation course for designing t-shirts and designing logos, producing mock-ups. But finally, if you did create a nice little project you wanted to save, you can either click on the disk there, or you can go up and go File, Save As, and you can save that into a folder of your choice. So I really hope you enjoyed this overview on CorelDRAW 2020, and don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. There's lots and lots of videos on there. We're going to be producing a lot more videos on CorelDRAW, and if you're interested in getting to the t-shirt printing industry, like I said, then check out seworkwearacademia.com. Thanks for watching.